Hello and welcome to Wrestler Spotlight. I'm the Maritime Warrior, and today's episode is about the late great John Tenta, Earthquake. Before John Tenta became a professional wrestler, he was a sumo wrestler in Japan. He had some success in sumo wrestling, but did not stay long because of the physical toll that it took on his body, and he would also have to have his tattoo removed because tattoos in Japan are mostly worn by mafia members. He would remain in Japan in 1986, competing for Giant Baba's All Japan Pro Wrestling. He would then return to Canada, working for Al Tomko's All Star Wrestling, and in 1989, he would make his debut in the WWF. John Tenta would first appear on WWF TV in November of 1989 as a fan in the audience. He would be brought into the ring by Jimmy Hart for the Ultimate Warrior and Dino Bravo's push-up contest. He would sit on Dino Bravo's back while Bravo did push-ups. After Bravo was finished with his push-ups, it was Ultimate Warrior's turn, and that's when John Tenta attacked the Ultimate Warrior. The original name they gave to Tenta was the Canadian Earthquake, but it was later just shortened to Earthquake. Earthquake's first pay-per-view appearance would be the Survivor Series in 1989, when he would be a part of the King's Court alongside Dino Bravo, Greg the Hammer Valentine, and Captain Macho King Randy Savage. Earthquake would be one of the survivors in the match along with Macho King Randy Savage and his partner Dino Bravo. The gimmick for Earthquake after this was going to be that he would be ending wrestlers' careers with his finishing move, the Earthquake Splash, which is the running seated senton. Both Earthquake and Dino Bravo would have an important role in the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan's feud going into WrestleMania 6, The Ultimate Challenge. Dino Bravo would face the Ultimate Warrior for the Intercontinental title, but at the end of the match, Earthquake would attack the Ultimate Warrior, and Hulk Hogan would come out to make the save. A few weeks later, Dino Bravo would face off against Hulk Hogan. Once again, at the end of the match, Earthquake would interfere. This time, the Ultimate Warrior would come to the help of Hulk Hogan. At WrestleMania 6, Earthquake would have a dominant win over the mighty Hercules, and he would be at ringside for Dino Bravo's match against Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Duggan would get the win over Bravo, but once again the Earthquake would attack. Earthquake would hit Duggan with several Earthquake splashes, teasing a feud that ultimately would never happen. The reasons for this is Earthquake would start feuding with Hulk Hogan after WrestleMania 6, who had just lost the WWF World Heavyweight title to the Ultimate Warrior. Earthquake would attack Hulk Hogan on the Brother Love show, hitting the Earthquake Splash several times, injuring Hogan, putting him out of action for a few months. Upon Hogan's return, it would be made official, the Earthquake versus Hulk Hogan at SummerSlam 1990. A lot of people say that this is Earthquake's big main event run with Hulk Hogan. Unfortunately, this wasn't a main event run. Hulk Hogan wasn't the main event. The Ultimate Warrior was the main event. Should the Earthquake have feuded with the Ultimate Warrior for the WWF World Heavyweight title at some point in 1990? Absolutely 100%. This is politician Hogan calling dibs on Earthquake. This didn't really affect the Ultimate Warrior's drawing power because he drew very well in his feud with Ravishing Rick Rude. They main evented SummerSlam in a steel cage match, and it gave Hulk Hogan a big monster to beat. But this was not a main event feud. At SummerSlam, Hulk Hogan beat Earthquake by countout. Earthquake continued to feud with Hulk Hogan going into the Survivor Series as they both would captain a team, Hulk Hogan's Hulkamaniacs versus Earthquake's Natural Disasters. Hulk Hogan would be the sole survivor. After the Hogan feud ended, Earthquake slid down the cards, feuding with Tugboat. At the 1991 Royal Rumble, Earthquake would be in the final two, but would be eliminated by, you guessed it, Hulk Hogan. At WrestleMania 7, Earthquake would beat Greg the Hammer Valentine. After WrestleMania 7, Earthquake would turn his attention to the tag team division and start looking for a tag team partner. He wanted to be partners with Andre the Giant. Andre would say no, and then Earthquake would attack Andre and injure him. This was supposed to lead to a feud between Earthquake and Andre the Giant that ultimately never happened because of Andre's poor health. During a 6-man tag team match where Earthquake teamed with the Nasty Boys, taking on Tugboat and the Bushwhackers, Tugboat would turn on the Bushwhackers and he would start teaming up with Earthquake as Typhoon. Together, they would be known as the Natural Disasters. At SummerSlam 1991, the Natural Disasters would beat the Bushwhackers, but after SummerSlam, the Natural Disasters were looking for the new WWF Tag Team Champions, Hawk and Animal, the Legion of Doom. The Natural Disasters would feud with the Legion of Doom leading up to Survivor Series 1991, where they would actually close the show as Earthquake and Typhoon would team up with IRS to take on the Big Boss Man and the Legion of Doom in a rare 3 vs 3 Survivor Series match where the Legion of Doom were the survivors. The big televised tag team title match would be at the Royal Rumble in 1992, where the Natural Disasters would beat the Legion of Doom by countout, not winning the titles. At some point between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, Jimmy Hart would start managing a new tag team. This was IRS and the $1 Million Man, Money Incorporated. This would turn the Natural Disasters babyface. Money Incorporated would be the team to beat the Legion of Doom for the tag team titles, and the Natural Disasters would challenge Money Incorporated at WrestleMania 8 for the belts. Earthquake and Typhoon would get the win, but once again by countout, not winning the titles. At this point in time, the WWF had a working relationship with Super World of Sports out of Japan. Earthquake and Typhoon would beat Haku and Yoshiaki Yatsu in April of 1992 to win the SWS Tag Team titles. They would only hold the titles for one day though. On July 20th, 1992, during a Superstars TV taping, Earthquake and Typhoon would beat Money Incorporated to finally win the WWF Tag Team titles. At SummerSlam 1992, in front of 80,000 people in Wembley Stadium, Earthquake and Typhoon would successfully defend the WWF Tag Team titles versus the Beverly Brothers. On an episode of Wrestling Challenge in October of 1992, Money Incorporated would win back the tag team titles from the Natural Disasters. This ended their title reign at 85 days. In 1993, Earthquake would briefly leave the WWF and work for New Japan Pro Wrestling and WAR. He would also work for CMLL in Mexico. Earthquake would return to the WWF in early 1994. He would beat Adam Bomb at WrestleMania 10, and he would beat Yokozuna on Raw in a sumo match before leaving the WWF once again. John Tenta would join WCW in the mid-90s. He would be renamed the Avalanche and later on the Shark in the Dungeon of Doom. He would make a brief return to the WWF, not as Earthquake, but as Golga in The Oddities. He would make another return in the WWF in 2001 at WrestleMania 17 for the Gimmick Battle Royal. John Tenta would unfortunately pass away on June 7, 2006 at the age of 42 after battling bladder cancer. Earthquake is personally my favorite big man in the history of professional wrestling, and he is missed to this very day. Thank you all for listening, and I will see you next week.